The cabin was silent enough to hear the hum of the engines, until her voice split the air. "Move to the back, boy." Heads turned. Phones tilted. The sentence hung between the seats like turbulence that wouldn't pass. He didn't speak, just stood there, tall, calm, dressed in a red hoodie that seemed too bold for first class. The brown leather bag in his hand had one quiet engraving, D. Cole. He didn't need anything else to introduce himself. The woman pearls gleaming under cabin light crossed her legs with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "That's my seat," she said, every syllable coded in assumption. He checked his ticket. 2 amperes. The same number stitched on the headrest behind her shoulder. "It's mine," he answered simply. His voice was steady, polite, dangerous in its calm. Behind them, a few passengers began recording. One whispered, "Is this really happening?" Another replied, "It always does, just not this close." A flight attendant appeared, forced smile tight. "Sir, maybe we can move you somewhere more comfortable?" Cole's eyes didn't leave the woman. "I'm already comfortable," he said. Her lip curled. "You people always think rules don't apply to you." That phrase, "you people," hit the air like static. The young attendant hesitated, glancing between them. The woman lifted her designer purse and pointed to the aisle. "Get him out of my row." Phones rose higher now, the way witnesses raise their hands in court. Somewhere in the back, someone whispered, "Keep filming." Cole still hadn't raised his voice. He didn't need to. The pressure was building by itself. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here." Now back to D. Cole. He looked down at his ticket one more time, then at the woman blocking his seat. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked quietly. She smirked, tilting her sunglasses. "I'm sure." And just like that, the line was drawn 30,000 feet above the ground between assumption and truth. The flight attendant's smile thinned into discipline. "Sir, please step aside," he said, polite in tone, but firm in hierarchy. D. Cole didn't move. The aisle became a stage, every row, a quiet jury. The woman shifted in her seat, her pearls brushing the neckline of her blazer. "This is ridiculous," she said. "People like him buy standby tickets and sneak up front all the time." Her words weren't just loud, they were meant to be heard. Cole tilted his head. "People like me?" he asked. She met his gaze, unflinching. "You know exactly what I mean." The man across the aisle cleared his throat, uneasy. The young woman behind her phone whispered, "He showed the boarding pass, didn't he?" No one answered. The cabin air felt heavier now, like it was judging them all. The attendant tried again, voice rehearsed. "We can find you another seat, sir." Cole kept his calm. "My seat is 2 amperes. That seat has been reassigned," the attendant replied quickly. "For a VIP guest." Cole's brow lifted slightly. "Define VIP." A murmur rippled through the cabin. One passenger said softly, "He's handling this better than I would." Another nodded, eyes locked on the confrontation. The woman scoffed. "You're wasting everyone's time." Cole's reply was almost gentle. "And you're testing everyone's silence." The flight attendant's radio cracked faint static from the cockpit. "Everything okay in first?" a voice asked. The attendant hesitated before answering, "We're resolving a seating issue." But it didn't sound resolved. The woman leaned closer, her perfume cutting through the recycled air. "You're lucky I don't call security right now." Cole's tone didn't waver. "Do what you need to. I'll still be here." That confidence rattled her more than defiance could. The passengers noticed. Phones stayed raised, recording every breath. The sound of the engines deepened, but no one was thinking about the flight anymore. The attendant sighed, lowering his voice. "Sir, please, you're making this difficult." Cole's answer was quiet, precise. "No, I'm making it visible." And just like that, the roles began to blur, the accused turning into the mirror they couldn't look away from. Every second of silence was now a spotlight. Every look of judgment a record of its own. By the time the captain's door opened, it wasn't just about a seat anymore. It was about who gets to sit anywhere at all. The cockpit door opened with a sharp metallic click. A tall man in a crisp uniform stepped out, hat tucked under one arm, jaw tight. Captain Reynolds. The authority in his stride drew every eye in the cabin. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked, though the tone suggested he'd already chosen a side. The woman in pearls wasted no time. "This man's in the wrong seat," she said, gesturing dramatically. "He won't move. It's disruptive." Reynolds turned to Cole, scanning him top to bottom in a single sweep. Sir, first class is for premium ticket holders only. Cole handed over his boarding pass, or what was left of it. The woman's fingernail had torn a small corner earlier, but the seat number still gleamed clear 2 amperes. The captain frowned, glancing at the attendant. You verified this. The attendant hesitated. The system shows 2 amperes reassigned to a Mrs. Whitmore. That's me, the woman said proudly, as if her name alone were proof. Cole leaned back slightly. Your system's wrong. A hush fell again, that eerie kind of silence that follows arrogance. The captain exhaled through his nose, a sound of forced patience. We'll sort this out on the ground. For now, please take another seat. Cole's gaze didn't shift. No, it wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The word hung in the air like a verdict. Reynolds stepped closer. Sir, I'm asking you to comply. Cole's voice stayed even. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to fly. From the back of the cabin, someone whispered, He's not even raising his voice. Another passenger muttered, That's what makes them nervous. The woman crossed her arms, pretending victory. Finally, some authority, she said to the captain. Remove him. Cole turned his head slightly toward her. You really think authority is on your side? Her smile faltered, but she didn't answer. The captain gestured toward the aisle. Sir, last warning. Cole's phone buzzed once, a discreet vibration against his palm. He lifted it, pressed a single button, and spoke softly into the receiver. Rachel flag Horizon Flight 74. Protocol 7 confirmed. The flight attendant blinked. What was that? Cole's reply was almost a whisper. Documentation. A man in seat 3C murmured to his wife. What's he doing? She shook her head, eyes fixed on the unfolding storm. The captain squared his shoulders, trying to reclaim the moment. If you don't move, we'll have to delay departure. Cole's gaze was steady, unflinching. Then delay it. That was the first moment the captain hesitated. Just a flicker, but it rippled through the cabin. Someone near the front muttered, He's not bluffing. Another added, You can tell it's the way he's sitting. Reynolds' voice lowered. Sir, who exactly are you? Cole leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, and answered with the calm of a man who'd already won. Let's just say, Captain, you'll know before we land. No one spoke for a long 5 seconds. The captain's shadow cut across Cole's knees as he stood in the aisle, still waiting for compliance. But D. Cole didn't flinch. He leaned back, one hand resting on his bag, eyes calm. The hum of the engines filled the silence like a soundtrack. Sir, the captain said again, softer this time, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Cole looked up at him. I'm not making it harder. I'm making it honest. The woman in pearls scoffed. You people always twist words. He turned his head slowly. And you always hide behind them. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. The cameras kept rolling. The younger flight attendant, barely out of training badge, reading M. Lopez, shifted uncomfortably. He whispered, Captain, maybe we should double-check the manifest. Reynolds didn't answer. He was staring at Cole, sensing something he couldn't define, authority that didn't need a title. Cole lowered his voice, speaking almost to himself. Every time it's the same dance. Different uniforms, same rhythm. His eyes flickered with memory. Another gate, another face, another dismissal. At 25, a clerk had called him Sir, until she saw his skin. Then it became Buddy. He'd promised himself then that calm would be his sharpest weapon. Now, in seat 2 amperes, he was wielding it perfectly. The captain cleared his throat. I'm giving you one last chance, Cole interrupted, still measured. You've already had yours. The words landed like a quiet verdict. The passengers felt it. Someone murmured, He's not scared. Another answered, He shouldn't be. Lopez took a small step forward. Captain, the boarding log says his name scanned green. Twice. The woman snapped. He probably faked it. Cole's gaze cut through her. Fake doesn't scan twice. Reynolds exhaled, jaw tight. Enough. Either you sit somewhere else or you'll be escorted off. Cole leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Escorted off my own flight, that's a first. A ripple of whispers. The phrase, my own flight, lingered, half threat, half mystery. The captain frowned. What did you just say? Cole didn't answer. He picked up his phone again, tapping once. A faint chime confirmed the call. Rachel, he said quietly. Begin the log. Include the captain. Lopez froze. The captain blinked, unsure if he'd misheard. Cole set the phone back on the armrest, calm as still water. I warned you, he said. Silence has a weight. You just chose to carry it. And for the first time, the captain stepped back. Not out of fear, but out of something worse, recognition that he might be the one out of line. The cabin no longer sounded like a plane. It sounded like a courtroom held in the sky. Passengers whispered behind raised phones, screens glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. Every angle, every breath was being recorded. Near row 3, a teenage boy nudged his mother. "Mom, he didn't even do anything," she whispered back. "Keep your voice down." But she didn't look away. Cole stayed still, hands folded neatly in his lap. The red hoodie against the ivory leather seat made him look almost cinematic, a quiet defiance framed by privilege. Across the aisle, Lopez's nerves showed in small tremors. He opened his tablet, scrolling the manifest again. "Captain," he said softly, "it's here. Seat 2, Ampere's D. Cole." The boarding logs verified. The captain ignored him, eyes fixed on Cole. "I said step out." Cole didn't move. "You checked the wrong system," he replied evenly. "Try the internal registry. The one you can't edit." Whispers rippled like static. The woman in pearls gripped her armrest. "You talk like you know how this airline works." Cole looked at her once, and the answer was in his silence. From the far aisle, a young black woman spoke up, her voice shaking but clear. "He's right. I saw it scan green. Twice." The captain turned visibly annoyed. "Ma'am, please stay seated." "No," she said louder this time. "You stay fair." Gasps followed. Someone muttered. "She said what we're all thinking." A businessman in 1C shook his head. "This is getting ugly." A gray-haired woman leaned forward, whispering, "No, it's getting honest." Cole finally looked around. "Anyone else see what just happened?" he asked, calm but cutting. "Or do we pretend this is policy again?" No one answered, but no one looked away either. The silence itself began to testify. The captain raised his radio. "Security, meet me at the gate." Cole's voice stopped him cold. "That won't be necessary." Rachel's voice came faintly through his earpiece. Crisp, professional. "Protocol 7. Fully active. Board has been notified." Cole closed his eyes briefly. "Copy that." The woman in pearls let out a small, nervous laugh. "You think some phone call's going to save you?" He turned toward her slowly. "It's not about saving me." His tone dropped to a near whisper. "It's about saving you from what comes next." For the first time, she looked unsure. The young woman who had spoken up earlier lowered her phone, her hands trembling. "He's not lying," she said to no one in particular. "You can tell." Cole glanced out the window, the city lights below flickering like a reflection of everything he'd endured before. Then he looked back at the cabin, the witnesses, the silence, the tension, and said quietly, "Good. Let them all see." The hum of the engines deepened as if the plane itself was listening now. The captain's knuckles whitened around his radio. "Security will handle this when we land," he said, voice tight with the illusion of control. But even he knew the cabin wasn't his anymore. It belonged to the silence and the cameras. Cole didn't look up. "You already had your chance to handle it," he said quietly. "Now it's evidence." Lopez swallowed hard. "Captain, we should really verified." "Enough," Reynolds barked. The sound cracked through the air like a gavel. Every phone in the first-class cabin trembled with a collective intake of breath. The woman in pearls flinched, pretending she wasn't afraid. The business traveler in 1C muttered, "He's losing it." Cole leaned back, folding his hands again. "You keep saying verify, but you never checked what matters." "Your behavior," Reynolds stiffened. "I don't take lectures from passengers." "Then maybe you shouldn't take orders from bias," Cole replied, calm but final. That word bias hit like turbulence. The young black woman near row 3 spoke again, firmer now. "He's telling the truth. I watched it happen." A ripple of support spread through the cabin heads, nodding murmurs rising. It wasn't outrage yet. It was awakening. The captain turned sharply toward Lopez. "Remove that passenger to economy." Lopez froze. "Sir, I can't." "Now," Cole spoke before Lopez could move. "You touch me, and this turns from policy to history." Reynolds hesitated, but pride kept him from retreating. "You think you can intimidate me?" Cole's eyes held his steady as a verdict. "No. I'm just reminding you who you're speaking to." Phones zoomed in. The moment stretched. Rachel's voice whispered through Cole's earpiece again. "Board members on call. Legal observing in real time. Continue protocol." He exhaled, slow and controlled. "Acknowledged." The woman in pearls broke the tension with a brittle laugh. "This is absurd." "He's bluffing." Cole's eyes cut toward her. "If I were bluffing, you wouldn't still have your job." She blinked, confused. My job." He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Lopez turned his tablet toward the captain, voice trembling. "Sir, look." On the screen glowed a corporate seal, Horizon Airline's internal registry, and beneath it a single name highlighted in gold, Darius Cole, founder and chief executive officer. The captain's expression fractured. The woman's smile collapsed. Someone gasped audibly. No way. Cole sat there utterly still. I told you, he said softly. You checked the wrong system. For the first time, the cameras didn't just record injustice. They recorded realization. The captain stepped back, lips parting but no sound coming. His authority deflated like a punctured tire. Cole looked at him, then at the passengers still watching. This isn't about a seat, he said quietly. It's about who you thought deserved one. And in that moment, even the hum of the engines felt guilty. No one spoke. Not even the engines seemed willing to interrupt what had just been revealed. The captain's face was pale, his authority dissolving faster than altitude could save him. He took a small step back, the first time he'd moved without command. The woman in pearls sat frozen, eyes wide. You're the CEO? Cole's reply was steady. Founder, actually. Her mouth opened, but no words formed. She looked down at her manicured hands as if they could explain her mistake. Around them, passengers whispered fragments that bounced across the cabin like echoes of disbelief. Wait, he owns the airline. Bro, this just flipped completely. Someone better not delete that video. Lopez still held the tablet like it was holy text. The golden name shimmered under the cabin lights. Sir, he said quietly to Cole. I didn't know. Cole gave a faint nod. Now you do. The captain swallowed, his voice brittle. Mr. Cole, if we had known. Cole cut him off with surgical calm. You would have behaved differently. That's the point. Every word was a blade cutting without raising volume. The young black woman near row 3 shook her head, tears glinting in her eyes. We see this all the time, she whispered. Just never like this. Cole turned slightly toward her. Then let this be the last time. The captain tried to recover his composure, but the ground had shifted under him. Sir, I apologize for the misunderstanding. Cole's voice stayed even. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. You just happened to perform it at 3,000 feet. The line hit harder than shouting ever could. Someone near the back whispered. He said that like he's done this before. Another replied, maybe he has, just not this publicly. The woman in pearls tried one last defense. I didn't mean any harm. Cole looked at her. Intent doesn't erase impact. She flinched. Rachel's voice came through the earpiece again, calm and precise. Live protocol confirmed. Internal audit streaming to board. Continue as you wish. Cole's tone didn't change. Understood. He turned back to the captain. You'll coordinate with Rachel once we land. Suspension review begins immediately. Reynolds blinked, sweat gathering at his temples. You can't mean that. Cole's eyes didn't waver. I can, and I do. Phones were still filming, but now they were steady, reverent even. The passengers weren't just witnesses. They were participants in something shifting. The woman in pearls looked around helplessly. You're not serious. Cole finally stood, slow, deliberate. You wanted this seat, he said. Now you can have it, but not the comfort that came with it. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the empty space he'd left behind. No one moved. For the first time since takeoff, the cabin wasn't divided by race or rank or ticket class, only by conscience. And in that uneasy silence, the weight of truth finally settled heavier than gravity itself. The cabin door had not opened yet. Something had an invisible gate in the air. Every passenger could feel it. The hierarchy that had ruled the space moments ago was gone, replaced by a thick quiet made of awe and reckoning. Captain Reynolds stood still, caught between training and shame. The woman in pearls, Mrs. Whitmore, sat back, trembling in the very seat she had stolen. Her perfume no longer smelled expensive. It smelled nervous. Cole remained standing in the aisle posture, steady gaze level. No one here needs to raise their voice, he said. The truth's loud enough. Lopez glanced between them, his hands shaking around the tablet. Sir, what do you want us to do? Cole turned slightly, eyes softening. Do what should have been done from the start. Treat people right. That simple sentence landed harder than any command. The businessman in 1C nodded slowly. Guess we all needed that reminder. Rachel's voice murmured faintly in Cole's ear. News feeds are picking up the clip. It's already trending. Cole didn't react. He just breathed out, measured, composed. Mrs. Whitmore tried to gather what dignity she had left. This is all a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. Cole's eyes met hers, calm and exact. That's what people say when they finally see the mirror. Her lip quivered. Around them, passengers shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke. Even those who had stayed neutral earlier couldn't hide the pull of conscience anymore. Captain Reynolds cleared his throat. "Mr. Cole, may I speak privately after landing?" "You can speak now," Cole replied. "The whole room deserves to hear accountability as loudly as the accusation." The captain hesitated, but there was nowhere left to hide. "You're right," he said finally. "I judged before I verified. I let bias dictate authority. That won't happen again." Cole nodded once. "Make sure it doesn't, because I'm not the one you'll be flying for next time." A stunned silence followed, then one soft clap. It came from the young black woman who had defended him earlier. Another joined, then another. Within seconds, the quiet became applause. Not loud, not forced, but rhythmic, steady, like the heartbeat of something waking up. Mrs. Whitmore stared forward, unmoving, each clap striking her like truth she could no longer deny. Cole didn't smile. He simply sat back down, reclaiming the seat that had always been his. He buckled his belt. The click echoed like closure. Lopez leaned closer, whispering, "Sir, would you like something to drink?" Cole answered, "Water's fine." As the engines roared and the aircraft began to taxi, he glanced toward the window. The reflection staring back at him wasn't triumph, it was composure. He whispered almost to himself, "Power doesn't shout. It just endures." Outside, the runway lights blurred into motion. Inside, the story had already taken flight. The plane rolled forward, engines humming like a heartbeat beneath the floor. Yet the real sound was the murmuring of a cabin that had just witnessed a truth too sharp to ignore. The applause had faded, but its echo lingered, a soft collective reckoning suspended in recycled air. Mrs. Whitmore sat stiff, her face drained of color. The woman who once commanded the aisle now couldn't meet anyone's eyes. The pearls around her neck glinted with every tremor of her breath. Captain Reynolds returned to the cockpit shoulders, heavy voice low as he reported through the intercom, "Cabin secure." But he knew, and everyone knew, it wasn't secure at all, not from what they'd all seen. Cole remained motionless, calm as ever, his phone resting on the armrest beside him. The screen glowed faintly. A message from Rachel. "Global feed request received. Would you like to authorize the release?" His thumb hovered for a second before pressing yes. The attendant Lopez caught the movement, eyes widening. "Sir, you're broadcasting." Cole nodded once. "Transparency flies faster than any jet." The words weren't loud, but they traveled the cabin like wind through open doors. A teenager whispered, "He's live streaming it." An older man shook his head in disbelief. "Man just turned prejudice into policy reform." Mrs. Whitmore broke her silence, voice small now. "You didn't have to humiliate me like this." Cole turned expression unreadable. "I didn't. You did that when you decided who was worthy to sit beside you." The air in the cabin tightened again, not from tension this time, but from reflection. Even those who had stayed silent earlier now stared at her with the uncomfortable realization of complicity. From the cockpit, the co-pilot's voice cracked through the speaker, "Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff." Lopez gave a quiet nod, still watching Cole. "Never seen anything like this," he whispered. Cole's gaze drifted toward the window. "That's because change doesn't always march. Sometimes it boards quietly." Outside, the runway lights flashed in rhythmic intervals. Blue, white blue. The aircraft began its acceleration, the city shrinking behind it. As gravity pressed them into their seats, Cole looked around once more. Every face was different now, humbled, reflective, alert. He spoke softly, but everyone heard him. "This isn't revenge," he said. "It's correction." Mrs. Whitmore closed her eyes. A tear, whether of shame or awakening, slipped down her cheek. The wheels lifted from the ground, and for the first time that night, justice had altitude. Cole leaned back, gaze steady on the horizon. The city lights faded beneath the clouds, and in that quiet climb it became clear. The higher they flew, the smaller arrogance became. The cabin tilted gently as the aircraft climbed through the night. The lights outside blurred into thin gold lines streaking across the window like memory. Inside, no one spoke above a whisper. Everyone was still processing what justice looked like when it didn't need to shout. Captain Reynolds' voice finally broke through the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached our cruising altitude. Flight time to New York will be 5 hours. The announcement sounded hollow, mechanical, like a man reading words he no longer believed in. Cole sat motionless in seat 2 amperes, head turned slightly toward the window. His reflection met his gaze, Not pride, not vengeance, just the weight of having to prove humanity in a space he built himself. Lopez approached slowly, tablet still in hand. "Mr. Cole," he said quietly, "corporate has confirmed receipt of your log. They're watching the feed live." Cole nodded once. "Good. Let them see what customer service really means." Across the aisle, Mrs. Whitmore still hadn't moved. Her makeup had settled into fine cracks around her eyes. "You can end it now," she said, voice trembling. "Please, everyone's already seen." Cole turned to her calm as a verdict. "You ended it when you decided who deserved dignity." "I'm just making sure it doesn't restart." The passengers shifted, glancing between them. No one defended her. The young black woman from row 3 spoke softly. "She'll never forget this," Cole replied. "That's the point. Neither should you." Rachel's voice returned faintly in his earpiece. "Media outlets requesting official statement." "Should I proceed?" "Draft 1, he said. "Keep it simple. No anger, no gloating. Just truth." Lopez hesitated, then asked, "Sir, do you ever get tired of having to teach the same lesson?" Cole looked at him for a long second. "Every day. But fatigue isn't freedom." The words hung heavy, honest. From a few rows behind the teenage boy whispered, "That's going on TikTok." His mother nudged him, but she didn't disagree. The seatbelt sign chimed softly. The plane leveled off, cruising steady above a sea of clouds. Cole exhaled, his composure still sharp as glass. "People think equality is a destination," he said under his breath. "But it's just turbulence we keep flying through." Whitmore whispered something too faint to catch, maybe apology, maybe disbelief. Cole didn't press her. Some lessons only echo when left unanswered. The passengers settled into uneasy quiet. The hum of the engines became a kind of meditation, a reminder that altitude doesn't change humanity. It only reveals who stands tall when gravity disappears. Cole reached for the small airline logo etched onto the headrest, his company's symbol once meant to represent freedom. His thumb brushed the edge of it like a promise renewed. Outside, the moonlight touched the wings, and for the first time all night he smiled, not out of triumph but out of certainty. Justice wasn't just on board anymore. It was in motion, cruising steady at 35,000 feet. Hours passed, but no one truly relaxed. Some stared out the window, others replayed the videos they had captured, the glow of their screens flickering like private confessions. The cabin had become part courtroom, part classroom, a place where silence finally learned to listen. Rachel's voice crackled through Cole's earpiece again, steady and controlled. "Darius, board action confirmed. Flight A-74's captain and attendant now under internal suspension. HR request immediate statement upon landing." Cole's reply was barely above a whisper. "Acknowledge receipt. Continue full audit." Lopez, still hovering in the aisle, caught fragments of the call. "Sir, is he, Captain Reynolds, really suspended?" Cole nodded. "He'll have a fair review. That's more than he gave me." From the cockpit, the captain's voice came again, brittle and uncertain. "This is your captain speaking. We'd like to thank you for your patience tonight." His words cracked slightly on patience. Every syllable carried the taste of consequence. Mrs. Whitmore shifted in her seat, restless. "You ruined his career," she muttered. Cole turned his head. "No, his choices did." She looked away, unable to answer. Lopez placed a glass of water on Cole's tray. "For what it's worth, sir, I'm proud to work here. I didn't know your story before, but—" Cole stopped him gently. "Then remember it, so you don't become someone else's story." The boy from earlier leaned over his armrest. "Sir, you really own the airline." Cole smiled faintly. "I built it so people could travel without judgment. Looks like I still have work to do." The mother beside him whispered, "You already did enough tonight." Cole didn't answer. He was watching the clouds outside, glowing faintly under moonlight, endless and quiet. "Justice isn't about enough," he said softly. "It's about never running out." A ripple of movement spread through the cabin. Passengers straightened as if absorbing his calm. The woman from row 3 who had first spoken up pulled her phone down and said quietly to her seatmate, "He didn't yell once, not once." Her companion nodded. "Power doesn't need volume." The intercom beeped again. "Flight attendants prepare for descent." Cole looked out the window lights of the city twinkling far below, small, fragile, but real. Rachel's voice came one last time, news outlets requesting comment. "The clip has surpassed 10 million views." Cole closed his eyes, exhaling through a quiet smile. "Then make sure they spell my message right." "What message, sir?" Rachel asked. He opened his eyes, watching the skyline grow larger beneath them. That calm isn't weakness, it's the sound of power thinking. The plane began its slow descent. Every passenger was silent again, not with fear this time, but with respect. Even the engines seemed gentler, like they'd learned something too. For the first time that night, Darius Cole allowed himself to rest back in his seat. Justice, after all, was landing with him. The wheels touched the runway with a soft thud, not a crash, but a verdict. Inside the cabin, no one clapped. No one dared. The landing wasn't a victory lap. It was an exhale. The kind people release when they realize they've been holding their breath for too long. As the plane slowed, Captain Reynolds' voice came over the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New York." His tone was hollow, stripped of the smooth confidence he'd worn like a badge. "We hope you have a pleasant evening." He didn't say thank you for flying Horizon. He couldn't. The seatbelt sign chimed off. Passengers rose carefully, as if afraid to disturb what lingered in the air. Mrs. Whitmore stayed seated, staring at her reflection in the black screen of her tablet. She didn't look like a villain now, just someone meeting the cost of her own certainty. Cole stood slowly, slinging his leather bag over his shoulder. He adjusted his hoodie, no rush, no tension. Lopez approached hesitantly. "Mr. Cole, security is waiting outside. Not for you, for them." He nodded toward the cockpit. Cole's response was calm. "Escort them respectfully. Accountability doesn't need humiliation." The young woman from row 3 stepped into the aisle, holding her phone down now. "Sir, I just wanted to say thank you for not yelling, for showing us how it's done." He met her eyes, warm but firm. "Don't thank me. Just remember, silence doesn't mean surrender. It means strategy." The teenage boy whispered to his mother, "That's going viral for sure." His mother smiled faintly. "Good. Maybe the right thing should." Passengers moved aside as Cole made his way down the aisle. Some nodded. Some couldn't meet his gaze. But every single one of them understood something had shifted, not just on this flight, but in themselves. At the door, Reynolds stood, waiting cap in hand, eyes heavy. "Mr. Cole, I was wrong." Cole paused. "You were human. The mistake was forgetting I was too." He stepped off the plane. Cameras flashed from the gate. Journalists already there, Rachel standing behind them, tablet in hand. "Statement ready, sir," she said. Cole gave a single nod. "Keep it brief." She read aloud, clear and measured. "Horizon Airlines reaffirms that dignity doesn't require uniform color or class. It's the price of admission to our humanity." Reporters shouted questions, but Cole was already walking through the terminal, unbothered, unhurried. Behind him, passengers exited in quiet reflection. Someone whispered, "He didn't raise his voice once." Another answered, "That's why we'll remember him." Outside, the dawn was breaking over the city, pale light spilling across the tarmac. Cole stopped, breathed in the cold air, and said softly to no one in particular, "I don't record justice. I'm what happens when it finally lands." And somewhere high above the clouds, the world he built began to feel a little bit closer to level.